So I'm going to talk about developing. I present what it is, why we need it, how we do it, and then I present a study that Jacob Swanberg and I did at Revault regarding the efficient management of the developing wallet for Watchtower. My intent with the presentation of the study is more about presenting the questions around the problem that we are all facing rather than delaying on the specific results that we have at Revault. So, developing is about updating the fees of a transaction, or rather increasing them for security developers. We need it, and we have required it for off-chain protocols because most off-chain protocols make this assumption that at any point in time, you can confirm a transaction before the expiration of the time. In other words, an off-chain contract is only enforceable on-chain if you can get a transaction confirmed before the deadline. In addition, the transaction that you want to get confirmed is very often co-signed by your counterparty in your off-chain contracts. And therefore, you want to be able to bump and increase the fees of your transaction to get confirmed without the pre-approval of your counterparty, without asking them to sign, because very often there's incentive to not sign because they would get more money out of the contract. So it's a requirement for security, but it's also a nice thing to have. For instance, for Lightning, getting the fees out of the commitment transaction, because right now without MRS, what we would do on Lightning is to largely overshoot the commitment transaction fee rates, and we will update them as the on-chain fee rate updates, and so we'll have very, very expensive unilateral flows that are not always needed. So by getting the fees out of the commitment transaction, you can also opt in to pay a lot of fees for the confirmation of the commitment transaction, and therefore otherwise have very expensive near-term flows if this is not for security purposes. And it will also decouple the liquidity of the entire network from the on-chain fee rate, because right now, since the commitment transaction fee rate fluctuates with the on-chain fee rate, the liquidity of the entire Lightning network decreases as the on-chain fee rate increases. So how we do it? For Lightning, you essentially have two new output identification commitment transactions. One of the outputs being to each of the parties, so they can basically see the commitment transaction. In addition, for the HTLC transaction, the presigned transaction for the HTLCs that are being to yourself in your own commitment transaction, well, presenting them with the outputs with the single in-one-can-based signature hash flag, so that you only mask the first pair of input and output, so you can append new inputs and output to the HTLC transaction, therefore being able to increase the fees and decrease it. For Revault, let me present it in a nutshell before getting to our field-based mechanism. So it's more than that, but that's the part that we're interested in. Basically, you have a large multisig, a smaller multisig. You want to delegate some funds to the smaller multisig while keeping possibility to enforce spending policies and how they're going to use the funds. So what you do is to sign an envelope transaction that is going to pay to either the smaller multisig plus time work, or immediately to the large multisig. So what you do is that before pre-signing the envelope, you present the cancel that directly revoke an envelope attempt, and so that, and then you share the cancel transaction signatures with any kind of watchtower that you want to enforce spending policies, and you exchange the envelope transaction signatures to the smaller multisig participants, so that when they want to spend the broadcast envelope transaction, and any kind of network monitor or watchtower can enforce spending policies such as you can't envolt more than X Bitcoin a day, or you can't envolt outside of business hours. But in order to enforce these spending policies, you actually need to get your cancel transaction confirmed before the time. So what we do for Revault is that we use in one campaign all as a CH flag for assigning and changing the CH for the cancel transaction, so that we can add new inputs to the cancel transaction. Unfortunately, we can't use in one campaign single because it will open in vector by giving the outputs and mask. And we can't use the power tools for just thinking about the power tools in the row because it's only for the quarters contracts and Revault's most of the quarters. So we end up in the situation where any coin that we're going to use to feed them our cancel transaction is going to be bound entirely. So let's get to the middle of this. The point is to get transaction confirmed most of the time. Not most of the time, but almost always the statistic counts. It shows it's always going to be confirmed. And we want to do so by not overpaying either, because overpaying means more burden on the watchtower operator who needs to refill the watchtower more often, and that's already the worst case. They want to have to refill more than the watchtower. And it also means that you're going to waste funds that you don't need right now, but you might need in the future and won't have. Actually, it's not a solvable problem. It's not found. Theoretically, it goes through the roof and beyond. And we have to introduce the new constraints or new assumptions, and we have to assume that the fear rate won't go above a certain threshold, and we have to assume basically worst case fear rates that we call the reserve of fear rates. So it's arbitrary, you have to link something. There are different strategies like estimating based on the past fear rates, different way to estimate on the past fear rates. Then the first questions from your field and watchtower that you're going to have is how much funds do I need? So it makes it easier to reason about by breaking it per vault. So each time I say vault, you can just replace it with off-chain contract because conceptually it's applicable to any kind of off-chain contract. So we split it per vault, so we have this assumption of the reserve fee rate. We know the consent transaction size, so we have the reserve fee per vault, and then times the number of vaults, it's going to be the how much funds that you need to keep on your watchtower. Now, you are going to have, you have your fundamental wallet, you know how much your operator has to refill. How are you going to split the C checks so that are refilled? You could think that I'm just going to keep around one large UTXO and build the UTXO as I need it, and as I need a new coin to fill my consent transaction, I create a coin with the exact amount. And then I would use it in my consent transaction. You very most probably don't want to use it, especially in our case, but we could have change a bit. So then we have to split this UTXO and to create like a distribution of amounts layers, and to design that to make it efficient at the time of building. In addition to that, once you have decided how you are going to finance the UTXOs, you have to manage them across time because the fare rate is going to vary. Your fare reserve might vary as well depending on your strategy. Some coins may become dusty and you might want to consolidate them as well. So once you have the amounts that you need to refill on your watchtower, you have the distribution of UTXOs layouts on your watchtower, you have some kind of action to do. So as I have a new vault that is delegated and I'm going to ask my watchtower to watch for it, I'm going to need to allocate some kind of funds UTXO pool to this vault. So I need to pick the right kind of allocate to this vault. So I'm going to use this kind of selection. Then once I have coins allocated to this vault at the time where I want to cancel the an vault that is reaching the vault season that's being made, I'm going to select the coins from the allocated coins to the vault to add to the cancel transaction by adding enough fees but without overpaying either. Then you could also try to be clever with the fee estimation. say, if you have a long plan, like say 2 days, you could say, I need to cancel the Revault. I'm going to try to read, and this, as usual, it depends, it's a trade-off on the accessibility of the phone, so it should be a configuration, and trying to be more economical on fees. So you might say, I want to delay this confirmation and to try to target the largest confirmation, so that I don't estimate the mod fee 144, so decrease the fee rate, and only rebound once every 4 hours. So that you will try your luck basically, and if it doesn't confirm in the first day, you would get into panic modes and be more aggressive and bumping on the second. But actually, this comes to betting that the next day fee rate is going to be lower than the final day fee rate, and you can't predict the fee rate in the future, because as you do that, you reduce your probability of getting confirmed with the current day, and you might get aggressive and try to fee rate at the next block fee rate during the day where the fee rates are higher. So, yeah. And finally, how are you going to reburn your transaction? Or transactions that you want to replace and to increase the fees? Are you going to base your fee increase on the previous transaction fee rate, like the one you want to replace? Are you going to base it only on your fee estimator? Are you going to want to burn fee every 2 minutes? Are you going to, like, if your transaction does not get confirmed and you receive likes, and there are transactions which fees are lower, like your transaction should have confirmed, are you going to say enter panic mode and blindly increase the fees? Probably not. It really sounds like if you only have a fee bumper, all confirmation issues look like a fee paying one. But it might not be the case, it might be propagation. And there is an interesting thing with propagation here, is that you could have some mempool splits as well, because say you have a dozen of watchtowers, those spread evenly across the network, that enforce the same spending policies. We see approximately at the same time the same revolts that they want to cancel. They're all going to have slightly different estimation probably, and they're going to have different exit rules, so they're going to learn differently the cancel transaction, and you're going to end up with 10 cancel transactions across the network, and 10 parts of the network that have a different cancel transaction, and when you want to RBF, your cancel transaction on your side might not pay enough for the delta on the other parts of the network, so you might want to randomize and fuzz the amount a bit in order to prevent that. So what we did is basically to try different strategies over the historical data. So we picked the historical estimates mod fee data from TXStats and State.g websites, and we use Ricardo Casatan's block iterator to grab the blockchain historical data, and then we try different setups with different configuration from Revault, different number of participants, different payload values, and different probabilities of, like, say, probability of an envolt at this block, and the probability that this envolt is actually invaded, and then the probability that you're going to have a new envolt that is going to get negated, and you need to allocate some funds. And then we observe some metrics, such as the finite risk, the overpayments, the operation costs. And so we have done that for some months, or almost a year now. And so what we came up with for the distribution of amounts is to have, at first, two distributions. So we were going to have the reserve, and what you want for security reasons is that all your coins must pay as a reserve fee rate for their own fees. Like, they must have value higher as the fees that they cost as inputs to get included in the cancel transaction. So the minimum amount, if you have a high reserve fee rate, is already going to be quite big, and it's a fee rate that you're not going to encounter day to day, and most of the time it's actually going to be way lower, and you're going to overpay a lot since you're going to use your smallest coin, which is already way too large. So to reduce overpayment, we also use a bonus distribution that all coins that you can't use for security purposes that are nice to reduce overpayments 99% of the time, what are not huge indirect values. For the distribution, we use exponentially decreasing amounts in order to reduce the number of HXOs that we want, or that's something that I forgot to say. Obviously, we want to reduce the number of coins that we're going to allocate per off-chain contract, because you might be going to watch a lot of off-chain contracts and have a lot of watching this off-chain contract, and you might end up with a lot of HXOs to manage, which is costly to you and very expensive to the network, and that's a social expense to everyone running the full network. So yeah, we have this exponentially decreasing amount, so that we still have small coins, so that C-cancel coin selection directly flows from this distribution and can cap the maximum overpayment to the smallest coin that you have, because, well, you can pick the smallest one, and if you need more than half, more than that, you can use the twice as big one, and then you have the twice as big one, so you can always compose them, so that the maximum overpayment is the smallest coin maybe. Yeah, so detailed consideration, because I've been told I have the time. What you would do is that, so if you're going to take the largest coin, while the largest coin is lower than the needed fee, then you're going to take the smallest coin that covers for the remaining fees that you need, and then you're going to check if any other combination of coins is going to be more efficient than this one. So that's combinatorial. That's not really cool, but it's okay since we limit the number of coins that we have located per vault. Then for the reserve, we use basically the maximum historical fee rate with a bit of smoothing ups. And for the management of the UTXO pool, we merge the fanning out of UTXOs and the consolidation. That is when you have a new rifle and you're going to fan out this rifle into a nice distribution of UTXO. You're going to check and scanning your UTXO pool for some other coins according to some strategies. So for instance, this coin would not have been useful at the median fee rate over the past 90 days, so I'm going to consolidate and eventually create larger coins. For the developing specific, we bump at every block, since well, that's when our estimator gets updated with estimator V2, and that's, oh yeah, and there is the Revault estimation as well, which is an interesting issue, is that I didn't mention it at first, but in order to know the amounts to refill, you need to know the amount of volts in total that you have, but you can't, like, you have to predict how many volts, how many off-chain contracts you want to be watching, otherwise the watchdog will start refusing to get new volts. So yeah, you probably want to watch that as well, which means more allocation of capital, which is going to just sit there. Okay. So, to conclude, let's take a step back. As we move towards using more and more off-chain contracts, we're moving towards relying more and more on transaction fees for security, and it translates into more and more pieces of our infrastructure becoming security critical. Can we have reliable fee estimation? Can we make the network mempools an efficient marketplace for transaction fees? And I'm not even mentioning my own censorship or getting eclipse from blockchain data. So in the end, like, it's all hacky, like it's all hacks all the way down, and at the end of the day, you're just betting on future fee rates still, because you have to assume that fee rate won't go above certain thresholds. So, and even then, our study only concerned vaults, like only concerned Revault, where you have a small transaction. It's really just a one input, one output transaction, and for large UTXO, like that's called. For Lightning, you can have pretty large transactions, and even in the worst case, you can have a lot of sequence stage transactions, and all that for much lower UTXOs. In this case, we would probably get into a situation of kind of a fractional resolve where you would have only enough fees in your fee-bumping wallet to enforce part of your off-chain contracts at a reasonable fee rate. And even then, it seems natural for some insurance to emerge. Someone willing to take the bet that you won't have to enforce more than 20 of your chains, 20 of your off-chain contracts for the next month over 200 settlement bytes, for instance, so that you only have to cover 20 channels or say 40 to take some slack up to 200 settlement bytes, otherwise the guy will steal it and the insurance refuse you. That's good, but unfortunately, and given current mining centralization, there is a way easier path. That is, you could have some big stakeholders of the off-chain contracts ecosystem who start paying just a couple of mining pools for block space insurance. That is, you just have contracts with a mining pool paying a subscription and saying, you're going to, like, I pay you agreements, but when I need to get a specific transaction confirmed, you're just going to credit the block without any fees. And so you don't have to use any more hacks, you don't have to use any more fee bumping, anything. But that's a huge centralization pressure, and yeah, something that worries me a bit. But there is also the argument that this security model would incentivize big stakeholders in the ecosystem to start mining themselves in order to enforce the security of the off-chain contracts. I'm more doubtful about it because of specialization, like a Lightning company becoming a mining company, I don't know. But still, it's an interesting perspective for mining Revault post-subsidized, as a subsidized runs out, because you will mine at loss of Bitcoin, but not at loss of value. The value which we will extract from mining is to be able to statistically enforce off-chain contracts 99.99% of the time. That is, you have statistically 10 blocks per day, and you just set your 10 blocks in your off-chain contract subject. You can always catch the block. And yeah, that's the end. Thanks.
Questions?
We have time for questions.
So you were saying that it could be the case where your max record by more than 1 watt-hour, and then you may be debugging or re-debugging at some point, right? So are those like racing each other at some point, or do they work together, or are they like completely independent? Because it seems it could be the case where I want my transactions to get in, so I'm actually racing you and I'm debugging over you and you're dropping over me, right?
So this idea of composable fee-bumping is possible with Revault today, since we are broadcasting transactions in one campaign. Like Lightning is adding authorization stations. Another person is in a network net managed transaction. For us, we can, but I'm not entirely sure that it's safe to compose the fee-bumping. You could, before fee-bumping, you could check your member there is already a console, and instead of fee-bumping from scratch, you just add a new inputs to the audience transaction. It's something that we considered and that I wrote out for now, but we could do in the future. Other questions?
Is your fan out of coins, like the incrementally larger ones, is that per wallet or per vault or? Okay, and is it possible to make that on the fly? Like if you were allowed to introduce confirmed inputs for RBF or something?
So there are a lot of edge cases, like some presigned this on the fly. So for instance, say I have cancels that I want to be confused between the next 12 blocks. I have my BQ check scores that I'm going to peel. Currently, it's probably not going to last for long, but currently I need a confirmed check score if I'm going to do a transaction. So I'm going to peel my BQ check score, create the coin of the value that I need right now, wait for it to get confirmed. Hopefully it's going to get confirmed the next block, but maybe I might need to fill out this one as well, which you already start getting into crazy stuff. But then, even if you are lucky and you have it confirmed with the next block, the value at the next block, like the estimation might increase as well, and the value might not be up to date anymore. So you might want to create another coin to refill the transaction. Yeah.
Have you considered, like, for example, if there was sponsorship, so you would have like a child pays for parent style fee bump, except, you know, we had a soft fork where you could specify that this transaction is going to sponsor your transaction?
I've not thought, so that's not so shipped too much.
How much L2 or other upgrade to the Bitcoin network will reduce this attack surface or solve some of this issue?
L2 might help for some kind of peelings, but it really does not help for, like, that's conceptually, that's a security model of lightning. No matter the technicalities of the chain, you need to get your transaction confused. And you have to keep some funds around in order to be, like, you can't predict the fee market. You're going to pre-sign the transactions with no information of the fee market at the time of broadcast. So you have to keep some funds around to be able to figure at the time of broadcast. Even then, how much to keep is another bet on the fee